Hello, very warm welcome. You're watching the fresh edition of Your Trades. This is Priyanka Pal along with me, Sneha. Snehi, clearly market surprised us today.
Well,
what a move
surprise.
kicked in. India undergoes its fourth phase of voting today, 96 seats of under 10 states, and who expected? You remember last week when we were closing the show, we said that let's hope we start with a fresh sentiment.
Yeah, and at the start of the day, I did not think that we would be ending our day and starting the show like this by telling our viewers that wow, what a recovery has come on the Nifty today. But Priyanka, very subdued moves coming in for almost 2/3 of the trading session, and then what a stellar recovery for us.
So a lot of negative comments, positive comments, so many comments which we've been listening to on Twitter handles, on social media handles, and we saw a surprise move today by half past the day. And market registers a sharp recovery led by UPL, to name the banks, Kotak Bank, some Adani stocks, some auto numbers, Maruti and other stocks, large cap majorly, but then outperformance also continued towards the broader markets, broader side also. Mid cap, 0.5% up. Small cap is still a little struggling, but then real move came in large caps today. And just imagine, this is when we are comparing the rest of the world with Indian markets. Indian market has registered nearly 2% of losses last week, whereas European markets, Hang Seng, China, all the other markets, and in fact US markets are outperforming Indian markets. So emerging markets as well as European and US markets have been registering big gains, decent set of gains. But then India on its own pace did a sharp recovery today. Few set of disappointment came in terms of earnings. Tata Motors, we saw earnings on Friday post the market hours, post the trading hours. PAT was 3 times. There was a jump of 3 times in PAT. India business becomes debt free, but then some cautious guidance which came in for the rest of the year, and there were a couple of brokerage downgrades also, and hence the stock was the top loser stock for the Nifty set of stocks today. UPL revenue were above estimates, EBITDA above estimates, and margin above estimates, and we saw sharp move in UPL. Even in fact, this move was building up before the numbers also, and hence it closes 6.5% up. Consumer goods space clearly was an outlier performer today. ABB post the ABB numbers, Siemens, Thermax, they were the top gainers in F&O space, and of course, real move came from Cipla also, and some of the diagnostic names. Earnings was one reason, and of course, positive brokerage notes set the tone right here.
Well, absolutely, and a whole host of other stocks also that were in focus, like Priyanka mentioned, Cipla, Tata Motors. Cipla doing its fair share to bring the markets up, which was being weighed on heavily by Tata Motors. On the flip side, both of these Nifty companies had reported their numbers over the weekend, and we did see a tussle coming in between both of those stocks, eventually shaping where the Nifty went and closed for the end of the day. Other than that, the big newsmaker today was ABB India. Stock was up a solid 11% in today's trading session. What a smart move coming in on that front. On the back of positive con call commentary and a good set of numbers coming in as well. Dr. Lal PathLab also up 6%. Good numbers, inline numbers with expectations, and also brokerage note. However, brokerage note on the other side was slightly bearish coming in from Goldman Sachs, where they've maintained their sell rating. But despite that, the stock was doing pretty well, up 6% is where that stock has ended today's trading session. Sapphire Foods then was down 2.5%, Sirma SGS down 16.5%, Bank of India down 10%, and then you also had Union Bank down 3.5%. So you had some of these stocks that were weighing on where the markets were headed today. On the flip side, then you had Polycab, which was up 4.5%, and BEML, very smart moves coming over there as well. 14.5% is where BEML has ended today's trading session. 14.5% higher is what BEML was up to. Very good set of numbers coming in from BEML as well. Moving on, then let's also talk about some other newsmakers of the day, and all eyes will be on Bharti Airtel Q4 results tomorrow as well. Lots to watch out for when it comes to the earnings front. But other than that, let's talk about the new kid on the block today, and the big D-Street debut by Indegene today, listed at a premium of almost 47%. So good listing coming over there also, but also got slightly pressured because of the way the markets were behaving at that point in time. And it reached a high point of almost 660 rupees, but managed to close at that 571 rupee per share mark. That's where Indegene was as well. And lastly, let's also take a look at a source-based story wherein railway mega tenders are in the offing. Now, this is what trusted sources have told ET now that the railway is likely to float a mega tender for forged wheel manufacturing, and they also say that the tender could be floated for the procurement of more than 1 lakh forged wheels for trains, and the entire tender size is about to be expected to be above 500 crore rupees. Lots to talk about, lots to chat about on this show, but with that, let's also welcome on board our technical guest for today, Mileen Vasudeo, the Senior Technical Analyst at Arihant Capital Markets. Mileen, thanks so much for taking the time out and joining us today. And we have been stunned by the way the markets have moved today, especially the first half of the trading session. We had not expected such a move. So what's your outlook going ahead? Can we expect this recovery, that slight bit of recovery that we've seen, to continue going tomorrow as well? Can we expect a decent day coming in for the market tomorrow?
Good afternoon. Yes, the momentum is likely to carry forward, and we are of the opinion that Spot Nifty is trading well below the 50-day SMA. The 50-day SMA is somewhere around 22,296 level, and now today the sharp recovery is clearly indicating that the Nifty is likely to head towards the 50-day moving average line, which is at 22,296. So there was a good accumulation in the range of 21,970 to 21,900 levels. So that if that level holds for tomorrow also, then yes, we are likely to head towards, say, 22,300 in couple of days' time. Once Nifty starts trading above 22,300 level, which is the 50-day moving average line with good volumes, then yes, you could even see this rally would extend towards going forward towards the all-time high also. Similarly, if you see Bank Nifty also, Bank Nifty has clearly outperformed Nifty in today's trading session, because Bank Nifty is already reclaimed the 50-day SMA, and we are of the opinion that Bank Nifty may perform very well going forward. On the higher side, we are expecting 48,300, 48,500 to come in couple of days' time in Bank Nifty.
Mileen, what we gather is that you're trying to say is that there was a sharp short recovery, there was a smart recovery, short covering move which came in. But when would you initiate fresh longs from here? What will that crucial level which you want to be sure of?
See, we are of the opinion that once Nifty starts trading above the 50-day moving average line, with that is the 50-day moving average line is at say 22,300 level, and the volume should be greater than the previous day. That means yes, some good buying is happening, and even if you see in today's trading session, the breadth of the market was initially very negative, and then we saw a sharp U-turn in the breadth of the market, and the breadth of the market, the advances were clearly outperforming the declining counter. So we will be very sure once Nifty starts trading above 22,300 levels.
I get that. So 22,300 is a crucial level that you would want to watch from here. What would be the trades that you want to recommend to our viewers today?
See, today we saw good buying happening in Godrej property, currently trading at somewhere around 2750 level. One can keep a stop loss of 2670, and the target price would be 2887 and 2920 in couple of days' time. The second stock was Astral Pipes, which is currently trading at 2207. Keep a stop loss of 2147, and target would be 2327 and 2380. In couple of days' time.
Thanks so much for joining us, taking the time out and sharing your outlook on the markets as well your stock-specific recommendations with our viewers. Godrej Properties as well as Astral is what has made it to Mileen's radar today. But let's kind of move on and let's talk about the word from the wise today, and that happens to be Venugopal Gare today, the Managing Director and India Head of Research at Bernstein. He shared his rationale on the key changes that he has made to his portfolio. Listen into all the changes he has made to cope with the volatility in the markets as of now. Listen in.
Primarily, we wanted to add a bit more to financials, and hence ICICI Bank, which used to be a part of a portfolio earlier for more than 2 years, 2.5 years, which was taken out for a few quarters, has been reinserted to basically bolster the financial sector positions. And more importantly, we have three stocks out in financials at this juncture, all three private banks. Zomato is a risk sort of a trade in the sense that after having been a part of Zomato story for the entire last year, having seen a doubling of stock price, we had sort of, as a portfolio, taken profit beginning of the year, and it's been a pretty bold thing to get back in, at 180. And a part of that is primarily with the thesis that this is not really going to be impacted too much with what happens to the domestic macro story or election. This is primarily a very different story, which is more linked to grocery and how that sort of builds up in terms of a model. And near-term momentum was also fairly strong.
All right, we'll slip in for a short break here. More to come when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Your Trades. Let's talk about the stock of the day. That happens to Tata Motors, the top loser of the day also from the Nifty pack. Numbers which reflected that some concerns in PV and CV sales. That means the road ahead looks a little tough. And also concerns about GLR's EBITDA guidance also. Srishti is here to get us a complete view on Tata Motors numbers, impact and the con call highlights also. Srishti, over to you.
Well, yes, for this time around, we have to note that the Tata Motors earnings, where the profit push that we have seen was on the back of the deferred tax. But apart from that, if we talk about the guidance, then that's not exciting enough for the street, because for JLR, though there was a miss on the EBIT margins this time around, but going ahead, the FY25 EBIT margin guidance continues to be flat, where the analysts were earlier expecting for an uptick. So 8.5% of JLR EBIT margin is what the company is expecting. But another highlighter is the flow in the order book, because that is continuously on the downtrend. As of now, it stands at 1.33 lakhs unit for the JLR order book, which analysts believe that the moderation in the JLR order book is something that they are watchful of. And apart from that, though the JLR free cash flow in Q1 is expected to be weak, and the reversal of the working capital gains experienced in Q4 of FY25, so another push from the working capital and the free cash flow is also not there. Coming to the India business, then there too the guidance actually remains weak for the commercial vehicle as well as passenger vehicle segment, because for the first half of calendar of FY25, they do expect weak demand in the passenger vehicle industry. For FY25, the management expects a flat to slight decline in the growth of MHCV segment. So on both the fronts, the guidance is not that exciting, and we have also seen that a lot of these brokerages have gone ahead and downgraded the stock. As much as 4 brokerages have done it. Just to highlight, Nomura has downgraded the rating to a neutral from an buy earlier, though they have raised the target price to 1141 rupees. As well as for Morgan Stanley, they have downgraded the rating to an equal weight now from an overweight rating earlier, and have hiked the target price to 1100 rupees. But all of them do believe that the upside in Tata Motors is quite limited at this point in time, and all these positive are already factored in. But to give further push, the excitement is not there when it comes to the management commentary.
All right, Srishti, thanks so much for taking us through that. And well, that's about Tata Motors. That's the entire lowdown on Tata Motors. That stock has ended today's trading session by almost 8.5% of losses coming in today. And that happens to be the stock of the day. But let's also go across and listen into what the management had to say about the company's expansion plans, as well as the anticipated demerger of the CV and PV business. Listen.
Currently, internal teams are working away in terms of drawing up the entire plan, and the next step that we need to do is to put up a scheme of arrangement which needs to be put up to the board for approval. I would expect in the next 1-2 months the scheme would get approved by the board, and thereafter I would expect maybe another 8-9 months for the NCLT process to complete. April next year, we should try and get this concluded. Worst case slips to July. Yeah, we are about 55,000 units now. Sanam too started the operations. We're producing about 8,000, 10,000 in that site now. That will keep increasing as the year progresses. I would expect to take the 65. We'll take it up to about 80,000 units.
All right, let's move further. Let's get you more from the earnings space only. The stocks which disappointed was Syrma SGS and Sapphire Foods. Both were under the pressure on the back of the earnings today, and Syrma expects EBITDA margins to stabilize around about at 7.5% mark, while Sapphire Foods believes weak demand trends may continue, and that can continue in the first half of the current fiscal. Let's listen to it.
Going forward in the coming year, we would be in a better position where we are guiding a growth of about 40-45%, same as per last year, and EBITDA margins to stabilize at about 7%. In the coming year, FY25, I expect my consumer business to be below 40% of my revenue. Currently, it is 40%. Automotive would be about 21%, industrial about 25%. Healthcare would constitute 8% of the higher sort of top line growth. So it would be led by, as it has been in the past, by industrial, auto, and consumer.
So soft demand conditions and heightened competition is what makes this quarter also a little constrained. I think we might see this for perhaps another 1 or 2 quarters, and then we will see an improvement in overall demand conditions. That revenue should grow in the region of 25%. EBITDA should grow in the region of 30%. You'll have quarters and years when it might be a little up and down, but I think that's the longer term aspiration undoubtedly.
All right, that's the word coming in from the managements of Sapphire Foods as well as Syrma STS. But let's shift focus then from the consumption space and let's talk about PSU banks because they continue to reel under pressure despite reporting stable asset quality. Now, both Union Bank and Bank of India have flagged off agri-portfolio related concerns. Union Bank of India was down almost 4% today. Bank of India on the flip side down 10% today in today's trading session. So let's go across and listen into what the managements had to say when it comes to their agri-portfolio. Listen in.
On the growth front, we observe that we will be growing at a steady pace and we will be able to keep up with the margins. So we have just said 2.8 to 3%. Last year also I gave a guidance that we will be at 3%, but we have overachieved the target. And this year also with the very many initiatives being taken by the bank, we are sure that we will be able to meet our guidance of at least 3%. There. Agriculture is an area where we are a little concerned, and this is the area usually it happens in the last quarter because of the harvest season and the payouts that come in. It is because of the seasonality of the agriculture industry. That's the reason that we see quite a good slippages in the last quarter and in the current quarter and after that. All these limits which are expired will be now taken care, and then we also can give fresh advances.
No, the provisions will definitely come down. Whatever the provisions or hit we had to take on the NPA side or provision we have taken in the Q4 quarter, Q1 will be much better system. So this time also we saw in couple of states the delinquency was more in the agri sector. But however, in these states we feel that it won't be there. Maybe some other state it may come. But agri is a bit of a concern definitely.
Moving on to another stock which did saw some miss today, that was CDSL, but then stock did recover to close with 1% of losses. CDSL, which was in focus after it had cut its transaction charges once again, nearly by 12% on weighted average basis. Somit gets us more details at how much EBITDA can be impacted because of this and other details. Somit, over to you.
Well, if you see, CDSL has cut its transaction charges which will be applicable from now on, and on a weighted average basis if you see the transaction charges have been cut by around 12% compared to what it was earlier. Now post this cut, if you see, CDSL charges are now marginally lower compared to what NSDL is charging. Now transaction income accounted for nearly 27% of the total total operating income of the company in FY24, and as per analysts, this reduction in charges could lower the FY24 revenue, EBITDA and profit before tax by anywhere around 3% to 5%. But do remember, these cut in charges will be applicable from FY25, hence the impact of this will be seen in FY25, and actual impact would be lower given the fact that there are certain regulatory fees which are linked to transaction revenue. So if transaction revenue goes down, this regulatory fees will also go down, hence the net impact of this cut in transaction charges would be in fact lower lower than 3 to 5% what we are understanding based on FY24 revenue currently. Also, if the cash volumes pick up for CDSL post this cut in transaction charges, then this will further negate the effect of the price cut that we have been seeing. However, if cash volumes do not pick up, then the impact of this cut in transaction charges could be much higher for CDSL. So keep an eye out for CDSL in trade.
Well, all right, Swami, thanks so much for taking us through that. Let's move on then and talk about Cipla, because Cipla has reported a lackluster set of earnings For the quarter that went by, revenue met analyst expectations, but margin and EBITDA came in slightly lower than what the street was estimating. The management added that Q4 is a seasonally weak quarter and guided FY25 EBITDA margin of 25% and slightly higher than that. Here's an excerpt from the management and what they had to say when it comes to the FY25 outlook. Listen in.
It's been a remarkable trajectory in the US. We're looking forward to some new launches as they come into the US momentum. If we look at emerging markets in Europe, it was a good quarter for them, I think. And again, in Europe, we're looking forward to a significant number of launches. Hopefully that will come in this year. We see some volatility settling down in the emerging side of the world, and so I think that will contribute to overall increase in the trajectory in that business. Overall, I think good progress on our pipeline even this year.
All right, moving on. Gaurav joins in with the rest of the other stocks which were buzzing in the trade today. Gaurav, I'm sure a lot of stocks from the earnings space that you're tracking today.
Well, yes. First, let's begin with UPL, because if we look at the QOQ numbers, those were quite strong for the company. Revenue increased almost by 42%. We saw PAT coming up at 40% versus the losses that the company registered of 1,200 crore rupees last quarter. And we saw margins also improve. And apart from that, we saw a good commentary coming up from management as well. And on the back of this, we saw the stock was up almost by 7% in a day's trade. Next, let's talk about AB Capital, because this company also came up with good set of numbers. The revenue and PAT increased almost more than 30% on a YY basis. While if you look at total AUM, that increased almost by 21% on a YY basis, and now that stands around 4.4 lakh crore rupees. And if you look at the stock performance also, it is up almost by 3% in a day's trade. Next, let's talk about Tube Investments, because if you look at the numbers, revenue was increased almost by 18%, but if you look at EBITDA margins, those declined to 10% versus what it was at 13% a year ago. And lastly, if you look at profitability also, that also declined almost by 39%, and that is the reason why we saw the stock dipped almost by 3%. Next, let's talk about Zomato, because if you look at the numbers, the revenue was up 8.33%. EBITDA actually improved almost by 68% on a lower base. We saw PAT increasing almost by 26%. If we talk about food delivery, that actually was a result which was a little below what the street was expecting. But apart from that, if you talk about quick commerce segment, that reported EBIT of 2 crore rupees, which is actually a positive EBIT for the first time, versus the losses of EBIT losses of 56 crore rupees YY, and that is why we saw some momentum coming up in Zomato as well. And lastly, let's talk about Landmark Cars, because this company is going to open sales outlet for Mercedes-Benz in Bhopal. So with this, they will have 2 sales outlets in Madhya Pradesh. They already had a after sales outlet in Bhopal for Mercedes-Benz, and now with this sales outlet, they will increase the revenue for the company. And on the back of this one, we will watch out for this one as well. So all in all, on the back of numbers as well as on the back of news flows, these are the stocks which are going to be in focus, at least for us, in the days coming ahead.
Gaurav, thanks so much for taking us to that crisp list of all the stocks that were in focus and will continue to be so, like you mentioned, in the days to come, especially tomorrow. We've seen a very dilly-dally market session today, so Priyanka, all we can do is hold tight to our seats and expect a very good session tomorrow. At least that's what Mileen has to tell us, that the recovery will continue. But viewers, I'm afraid with that, we're completely timed out on this edition of Your Trades. From Priyanka, me and the entire team that put this show together, thanks so much for watching.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.